Welcome back to A People's Guide to Publishing. I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing and Distribution. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 25 years.
I'm Ellie Blue. I'm the editorial and marketing director here at Microcosm. We are an independent mid-list publisher based in Portland, Oregon, and Cleveland, Ohio. We have over 700 books, over 25 employees, and we make about 40 new books every year. And we distribute thousands of titles from other publishers.
We started this podcast so that we can share what we've learned with newer publishers so that you can learn from our mistakes.
Or maybe you just want to understand the publishing industry.
This week, we are going to answer another reader question, which is, can I be my own literary agent?
Ooh, this is technical. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like one of those, you think you're solving a problem, but you're not really solving a problem kind of questions.
So, what is the problem that this reader is trying to solve?
So, I run into this all day long, where people will get in touch and, they, assume that, all publishers are the same. They have been told by their friend or whatever that publishers will only review unsolicited manuscripts when they come from an agency, meaning like a trusted source that the publisher has a relationship with, that they tend to do a lot of business buying and selling with, which is great. So that's like a truly beneficial relationship. A lot of publishers have the perception that agency working with you means that you will pay a lot more for each book, but that's not necessarily true. When it's the right agency and the right book, they understand that you're an independent publisher and you don't have buckets of money.
So an agency is basically like a middle intermediary person who curates, they're like a pre-filter.
Yeah, an agency sort of has three roles. It will, work as a pre-editorial service to get your book into a condition where publishers would consider it. So they would say, here are the weaknesses of your manuscripts. Let's take care of those. And then once you do that, I can show it around. And then, by predicting these problems, we don't want to show something prematurely to publishers because they will then obviously identify these same things. And my experience allows me to recognize them at this time. Obviously, some publishers are going to find different things that they want out of a manuscript, etc. But it's a huge advantage, And so that is an actual skill, much like an editor would have, that you can utilize by working with an agency. And then, similarly, a good agency will have relationships, They'll have worked with dozens, if not hundreds, of specific people, not just publishers, but they'll say, Sally at XYZ Publishing Company is my buddy. We see each other once a week. We have a relationship. We're on a first name basis. I know what Sally likes. I know what Sally likes to acquire. I know what makes Sally raise her cackles. And I know how to close with Sally, And that's almost the biggest service that an agency provides. But maybe the actual biggest service that an agency provides is they know what's reasonable. They know what you should be getting paid. They know what a reasonable contract looks like. They know what a reasonable advance looks like. They know what kind of rights are, flexible, and they know which ones are inflexible.
Right, they know how to negotiate a contract.
Yeah, and they know, but more, it's not about knowing how to negotiate a contract so much as it's knowing what a standard contract looks like.
Right.
And why things are that way and how those things work in practice. Because it's one thing to, I can't tell you how many times, an author of a book that could never possibly be translated to TV or film wrestles and wrestles for those rights back. And, and as much as I say that's not really a concern, they aren't able to hear that, so I just have to say, okay, yeah, I mean, we can take it out, it's fine, because, like, there's no way the book is going to be translated to television or film, and, say if it's, like, a cookbook or something, and, so, it's really those three things that an agency does. So why do you think it might not be a great solution for an author to represent themselves as their own agent?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't seem like, I mean, it's like being your own publisher. It's like you would need to, like, the whole point of having an agent is to have that expertise in those relationships. But I guess if you want to be, like, put your manuscript in the mix at Penguin Random House, you do need an agent. Mm-hmm. But, like,
being your own agent isn't going to get you anywhere in that case.
Yeah, your chances are not going to be improved if they're like, oh, this is going on the slush pile.
Yeah. I mean, because it really, nobody actually cares that somebody has an agent or not. What they're really caring about is, like, saleability of the book, ability to incorporate the book into the publisher's list, reasonable demands and expectations of a book. I mean, I can tell you, we probably get, I don't know, 3 agented submissions a week or so, 0 of which we publish. It's not the fact that they're agented, it's the fact that we want a book or not, Right. And, and a lot of it is, it's sort of the wrong-headed idea of, like, you're trying to solve the problem of feeling like you don't have access, when the real problem is that your book isn't too up to snuff and meeting the criteria of the publishers.
It does seem like, I mean, like, I feel like there's multiple reasons you might want to be your own agent, and, like, one is access, and that is probably not going to go so well, but, like, if it's because you, like, actually do want to, like, develop those relationships and develop those skills, then, like, yeah, start an agency. People do it. It happens.
Yeah, but again, it's like, yeah, as you began to say, becoming an agency is, it's like its own career. It's like becoming a publisher. Then you have to learn all the skills of being a publisher. You have to learn all the skills of being an editor. You have to learn the skills of being an agency. And being your own editor as an author who is representing yourself and your own agency, it's just the levels of deception involved and the levels of, like, it just doesn't, like, at the end of the day, if you want to be an agency, be an agency. And I'm sorry to spoil it for you, but there's lots of fake agencies out there that will very happily represent you, but not be able to get you anywhere.
Right. I guess if they can't do those 3 things, then they're not really an agency.
I mean, I've been approached by so many of these fake agencies that, at the end of the day, it's apparent just in the initial pitch, because they'll either have no idea the language, or they, a skilled agency is demonstrated by them looking at our front list schedule and saying, okay, this is obviously what you're interested in, and here is what I have that matches that. An unskilled agency comes at us and says, Joe, we really need to have a meeting because I have this great book about horoscopes that, for all these dead people on the day that they died. And I'm like, that's interesting, but there's no reason that we would have a meeting about that. I would review that first, and you would know that, and then we would discuss if we were interested and it was suitable and the expectations were reasonable. And then, or the other thing I run into is the agency that says, or, the agency that says, we need $50,000 for you to look at this manuscript, and we are not accepting lower bids.
And you must sign an NDA.
Yeah, and you're like, well, that's just not how it works,
Fascinating.
And if somebody did approach it that way, they would at least case it. Well, they would first of all go to people that had that kind of money, and then second of all, they would say, this is very unusual, but, we have this particular situation, and here is the need and reason for it.
I feel like there's something here where, like, there are gatekeepers in publishing, and often that's for a reason, but they are often gatekeeping, like, the wrong people, like, often access to these, like access to an agency and to a publication can depend, especially in the traditional publishing world, on, like, your own social background and cues and resources and how you present yourself. I feel like we should do another episode about, like, how to, about the gatekeeping question. Because Because, like, I feel like there are good ways to bypass that.
Right.
But, like,
that's true, yeah. And I do have a lot of thoughts and answers to that, yeah.
Well, let's do another episode.
Okay. Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
On Twitter at Microcosm,
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
on Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.